In military history, a single mistake can change the fate of a nation, or even the entire world. Today, we dive into the top 10 most costly military mistakes in history. Buckle up. Some decisions will seem completely absurd, yet they cost millions of lives. Poor calculations, inflated egos, and strategies that turned into disasters. Get ready to revisit moments when everything collapsed in seconds, sometimes because of just one man. If you love history and surprising facts, subscribe and activate the bell. Let's begin the ranking of the worst military blunders ever recorded. 10. The Battle of Karancis. Imagine an army destroying itself without an enemy in sight. That's exactly what happened during the Battle of Karancis. In the midst of war against the Ottoman Empire, the Austrian army was camped in Romania. One night, some soldiers went out to find alcohol. Drunk and distrustful, one group refused to share. A fight broke out, a shot was fired, and panic spread. Believing they were under attack, Allied regiments began slaughtering each other in the dark. The chaos was absolute. Terrified horses, screams, gunfire in every direction. The result? Hundreds dead, and not a single Ottoman soldier in sight. 2 days later, the enemy arrived to find nothing but a field of corpses. 9. The charge of the Light Brigade. Crimean War. The British receive a vague order, attack, but with no clear target. The result? The Light Brigade charges, straight into a valley surrounded by Russian cannons. 600 cavalrymen surge forward, sabers raised, facing a hail of artillery fire. It's a massacre, yet they press on, break through the lines, and then retreat. Heroic? Perhaps. Pointless? Absolutely. The order stemmed from a misinterpretation, and the intended enemy wasn't even there. Nearly half the men were killed or wounded. This costly, avoidable miscommunication became infamous, immortalized in a poem. But more than anything, it highlights the absurdity of some military decisions, bravery, wasted by incompetence. 8. The Battle of Tannenburg, August 1914. At the very start of World War I, Russia launched 2 armies against Germany in East Prussia. The problem? The Russian generals despise each other and refuse to coordinate. Worse still, they send their messages in plain text without encryption. The result? The Germans read everything, every plan, every movement. General Samsonov's army advances blindly, isolated, and falls into a perfect trap set by the Germans. Within days, it's a disaster. 90,000 Russian soldiers captured, tens of thousands killed. Samsonov commits suicide in the forest. A crushing humiliation for the Russian Empire, caused by arrogance, poor communication, and a fatal technological blunder. Tannenberg reveals just how costly arrogance and outdated strategies can be for an entire army. 7. Napoleon's invasion of Russia, 1812. Napoleon launches his greatest military campaign. 600,000 men march toward Moscow. But Napoleon underestimates his enemy, which is not just the Russian army, but Russia itself. The Russians retreat, burning everything behind them: towns, supplies, shelter. Napoleon advances, but finds nothing. No decisive battle, just hunger, exhaustion, and cold. In Moscow, the city is empty. Then winter descends upon the Grande Armée. Ill-equipped, starving, and harassed by Russian forces, it collapses. Of the 600,000 men, barely 100,000 return alive. A colossal strategic failure, caused by overestimating his strength and ignoring the brutal realities of the terrain. If you want more details on this event, I explain everything in my video, 1812, When Winter Defeated Napoleon. The link is in the description. 6. Pearl Harbor, The Ignored Radars, December 7th, 1941. In Hawaii, 2 soldiers detect a large airborne formation on radar approaching. They alert their superiors. The response? They're probably American planes. The order? Do nothing. 30 minutes later, hundreds of Japanese aircraft appear and launch a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. In less than 2 hours, 2,400 dead, 8 battleships sunk or damaged, hundreds of planes destroyed on the ground. All this despite a clear warning being given. This negligence cost the United States dearly and hastened their entry into World War II. The attack became a symbol. But behind the historical shock, it was a dramatic misjudgment that might have perhaps changed the course of history. 5. The Battle of Little Bigghorn. After years of rising tensions between the United States and Native American nations, the government decides to force the Sioux and Cheyenne tribes into reservations. But faced with constant treaty violations, some leaders refuse. In 1876, the army is sent to subdue them. General Custer, a veteran of the Civil War, sets out with the 7th Cavalry. Confident and ambitious, he wants a swift victory for glory. However, while Custer believes he is facing only a handful of Sioux warriors, in reality, more than 2,000 fighters, led by Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse, await him. Ignoring orders, Custer divides his troops and attacks without waiting for reinforcements. A bad gamble. The Native Americans encircle his 210 men. None survive. The defeat is total, brutal, overwhelming. This battle remains a symbol of military arrogance, a resounding victory for indigenous peoples, but also a turning point that accelerated their repression. The retreat from Kabell. In 1839, the British Empire invaded Afghanistan to install a pro-English government, but hostility quickly escalated. Winter 1842. The British Army left Kabul after an Afghan uprising. 16,000 people, soldiers, civilians, families set out for Jalalabad, believing they had negotiated a safe passage. In reality, it was a trap. Ambushes, attacks, hunger, and freezing cold. Every day, the column was torn apart in the mountains. The army, poorly prepared and badly led, collapsed. In the end, only one British survivor reached Jalalabad to tell the tale of horror. This retreat was one of the greatest military disasters of the British Empire, caused by arrogance, incompetence, and complete ignorance of Afghan terrain. A lesson that other great powers, such as the USSR, would later ignore, to their own detriment. 3. The Battle of Stalingrad. In the summer of 1942, Hitler launched a massive offensive to seize the southern USSR and its oil resources. On his path, Stalingrad, a symbolic city bearing Stalin's name. Hitler was determined to take it at any cost. The fighting turned into an urban nightmare. Street by street, building by building, the German army got bogged down. Then winter arrived. The Soviets encircled the German 6th Army, trapping them in the city. Hitler ordered them to hold their ground. The result? Starvation, freezing temperatures, and slaughter. 300,000 men trapped, tens of thousands dead or captured. General Paulus, forbidden to surrender, eventually capitulated. This defeat marked a major turning point in World War II. From that moment on, Germany would only retreat. A strategic error, trying to control everything without anticipating logistical exhaustion or the brutality of the Russian winter. At Stalingrad, it was one man's obsession that cost an entire army. 2. The Battle of Midway. After Pearl Harbor, Japan dominates the Pacific. Confident, it sets its sights on Midway, a strategic atoll of small islands. The objective? Lure American aircraft carriers into a trap. What the Japanese don't realize is that the United States has cracked their communications. Admiral Nimitz knows their plan and is waiting for them. On June 4, 1942, American aviation strikes first. Within hours, 4 Japanese aircraft carriers are sunk. The heart of the Imperial fleet is broken. The major mistake? Arrogance. The Japanese underestimate the American ability to react, spread their forces too thin, and switch armaments mid-battle, wasting precious time. The result? A decisive victory for the Allies and a turning point in the Pacific War. Midway proves that in modern warfare, intelligence outweighs sheer power. A strategic miscalculation. That costs Japan its Pacific dominance. 1. The Magino Line. After World War I, France never wants to relive the nightmare of trench warfare. It builds the Magino Line, an immense 700-kilometer network of fortifications along the German border, designed to be impenetrable. The problem? It doesn't cover Belgium. because strategists assumed the enemy wouldn't dare go through there. In May 1940, Hitler launches his offensive precisely through the Ardennes, a terrain the French deemed impassable. Within days, the German army bypasses the line and takes France from behind. The result? The Maginot Line is completely useless. It's a textbook example of preparing for the previous war. Too rigid, too confident, the French military fails to adapt. The Maginot Line costs approximately 3.3 billion gold francs, around 2.5 billion euros today, only to become a symbol of monumental military failure. Thank you for watching this video until the end. If you learned something or simply enjoyed the content, consider leaving a like. It's a small action for you, but it helps me tremendously in delivering quality work. Your support makes all the difference. I invite you to explore the other videos on the channel. You might find them just as fascinating. See you soon for a new video, and remember, history never dies as long as we keep telling its story.